but I titled this, What Are You Saying to Yourself? And I shared a quote by Karen Eman earlier today, and it said, Jesus hears the words we say to ourselves. And I thought, how many times do we say negative things over ourselves? Well, Jesus hears those words, and he doesn't like it when we say those things to ourselves. You know, we sometimes are our own worst critic. We look at ourselves and we see all of our flaws. But, you know, if you look at all the good that's in you, it will far outweigh the flaws. And you know, there's some other thoughts too, just to think about. Proverbs 18:21 says, life and death is in the power of the tongue. So you really can change your perspective by changing your words, whether that's negative or positive. You know, you can really set the tone for your day based on what you're saying. And you can, you know, there's another quote, I want to say it's Albert Einstein. I could be wrong about that, but no, I'm sorry, it was Henry Ford. Whether you think you can or you think you can't, you're right. And so, you know, I was talking to one of my coach friends tonight at dinner, and she was talking about her workouts, and she has an app that she uses when she's working out at the gym, and it kind of gives her like a workout routine and tells her what to do and how many reps to do it and how many seconds to rest in between. And she said there was this one exercise that it had suggested she do and gave her an amount of weight, and she said she looked at herself and was like, I can't do that. Well, you know, if we tell ourselves we can't do that, then we can't. But she said immediately, she was like, why did I think that? Like, I'm going to do this. And so she said that she set the weight at what it had suggested, the app had suggested, based on her history of working out. And she said, you know what, I was able to do that. And then the next thing that it said, you know, it had her doing, she said, I can't do that. And then she was like, yes, I can. And so, you know, I want you to know that there are things that you can change just by how you talk to yourself. Like if you're speaking negative things over you, then negative things are going to happen. But if you will start speaking positivity over yourself, you'll see things changing in a different light. And, you know, something else is, you know, a lot of times there are things that we have listened to from other people, and we've kind of partnered with that, and you know, we begin to believe that about ourselves, and we speak that over ourselves. But you know, Jesus hears what you say to yourself. So you know, if you are contending with that, I don't like to really say struggle, but if you're contending with that negative self-talk, and I do that sometimes, you know, sometimes I tell myself, you know, negative things, you know, like you are not going to be, you know, whatever. You're not going to be the leader you need to be, you know, or you can't, you know, you won't be able to do whatever it is, you know, fill in the blank. You won't be able to curl, you know, 20 pounds of weight. You won't ever be able to do a pull-up. For those of you who have been following me, that's kind of what I'm working towards, to be able to do an unassisted pull-up. And so sometimes you sit there and you're like, I'll never be able to do that. And so if you speak that over yourself, then you probably won't. But if you say, you know what, I am working towards that, and I am going to reach that goal, you know, it gives you that little extra push so that you can. And so, you know, thinking about what does God say about you, and who does God say you are, and, you know, just break up with the negative voices. And just remember, you know, Jesus is listening, and he doesn't want you talking about yourself the way that we sometimes do. And, you know, he wants you encouraging yourself. There's another scripture where Paul says, I encourage myself in the Lord daily. And so instead of tearing yourself down, start lifting yourself up. And I think you'll find that your perspective changes, that your day changes, and things that you thought you could never do, you will find a way to get them done. So I hope that encourages you. It was just a thought that just kind of has stuck with me all day after I read that. And, I know that all of us from time to time, are victims of that negative voice in our head. So quiet that voice and let the voice become louder that says you can do those things. You will achieve what you want to achieve. You will be able to reach your goals. And because you're putting forth the action, if you're not putting forth the action, you're not going to reach them. But if you are being diligent and you are working towards those and you are claiming that, and speaking positive things into you, then you will achieve what you want to achieve. So I hope that encourages you tonight, and get out there and quiet that negative voice and let the positive voice be louder.